Hello, well June really is an ideal month to carry out a bit of a houseplant surgery because it's nice and warm outside. It means we can take our plants outside and any repotting or foliage cleaning that we need to do can be done without making the house a mess. Now the first thing I want to do when I'm looking at the houseplants, because they've been indoors for a good 6+ months, is just go over them and remove any dead or diseased foliage or any spent flowers so that I've got a nice clean plant. All of that material can be composted, and once I've done that I can take my plants outside and check whether they need to be repotted, which I can do, and also to give the foliage a good wash. Now you'll know from my guide, which you can download from Chesterton's, that houseplants actually improve the quality of the air in our houses. They're really good in bedrooms and sitting rooms, but in order to do that the foliage needs to be kept nice and clean. So I'm going to take one outside now and show you how to wash it. So as you can see, it's brilliant and sunny, ideal for bringing the houseplants out. They're not going to get any cold shock. And generally there are 3 types of houseplant foliage and they can be cleaned in 3 different ways. So if you've got slightly hairy foliage, that could be something like a fern or a pelargonium, those hairs are going to trap lots of dust. So the easiest way to give them a clean at this time of year is to use an old paintbrush. Make sure it's clean and it's quite soft, not a hard bristle one, and just brush over the foliage gently to get any of the dust out. You can, once you've done that, then give that a nice sprinkle over with a watering can of water and let it dry out in the sun. If you've got much glossier foliage, and you can see this one is actually covered in dust, then this can be washed with a soft cloth. So what I use is some tepid water in a bowl. I'll just move this one out of the way. If you put your hand under the foliage, you can't bruise it too much, and just gently wipe over the surface. Now this is best done with houseplants where there's a lot of dust, because trying to wash it off by sprinkling the watering can over, you'll be here forever. So just go over, getting the dust off, and you'll see it makes a huge difference to the plant. Once you've done that, again, to make sure it's nice and clean, you can just sprinkle over with a watering can with a fine rose so that it takes any dust off of the stems. So I've done those 2, and finally I've got my watering can here. If you have a plant where there's not a lot of dust, but it could do with a little bit of a wash, then you can sprinkle over. What I tend to do is first of all sprinkle away from the plants to make sure I'm getting a good volume of water through the rows, and then over the top. So sprinkle away. Once it's coming out fully, just wash them over, and then they can be left outside for the day to really dry off, and then take them back indoors before it's too cold. And now finally for our houseplant surgery is potting on. Over winter, in the warmth of the house, plants will have put on a lot of root growth, and some may like to be a bit restricted, but plenty will want to be moved on a pot size or 2. And it's a really simple thing to do. So I've got here a jasmine, and just like the foliage washing, I'm going to pick off any dead or spent foliage, bits that may have been damaged, old flowers. And jasmine actually is notorious for leaving flowers on. It can be a bit scrappy. So I'll do this. And once I've picked everything off, I'm ready for the repotting. Now, generally, the houseplant will either be warping the pot or there'll be roots coming through the base, which there is with this one, which is a really good sign. I'm going to be potting on using my own compost that I make, but if you don't make it, it's really simple to buy a good quality peat-free compost or a specialist houseplant compost if you're potting on cactus or things like orchids. First thing to do is to knock the plant out of its pot, and you can see that it's fairly well rooted. And I'm going to be moving it on roughly 2 pot sizes into this pot here. So unlike plants in the garden, I don't put crops in the bottom. I fill up with my compost, roughly about 1/3, to give it good new root growth, and then holding the foliage back so I can work with ease, I can put my plant in and see how much soil I need to put round. Now the important thing is not to pot right up to the surface. You want to leave a good 3 centimetres if you can, with a bigger plant potentially even more, so that when you come to water, the water isn't going to spill over the sides of the pot and all over your furniture. So you need to allow a good soak away space. Gently tease it down the sides of the pot. You don't want to over ram it so that it's compounded, because then the roots really won't enjoy it. And once you've got enough in there, what I tend to do is give it a good bang, and that basically gets any trapped air out of the way, because you don't want air in that space of the pot, because what it will do is make the plant dry out and the roots won't grow. Once you've done that, give that a good soak, and that can go back into the house. Now, if you can't do the potting outside, just use a large sheet of plastic or an old thick cloth on a table or a flat surface. Do your potting, and then you can easily scoop up any of the debris. So even without garden space, it's really possible to look after the houseplants. Now, if you want more hints, tips, ideas for where to use houseplants in your house, then look on the Chesterton site and you'll see all of the information regarding houseplants there.